we think that the early age of Islam was the golden years, right? But even in the first 100 years of Islam, we're talking about the first century of Islam, there was an absolutely insane amount of conflict and violence and extremism. There was also an insane amount of, un-Islamic cultural practices. There used to be a time in history where the Arabs, I'm sure many of you know, the Arabs were, very, very keen on poetry, right? They were a big part of their culture was poetry. And their poetry was made up of a few things. If you want to summarize before Islam for a few thousand years, their poetry was basically a handful of things. Number one, it was about battle. So they loved the horse, the sword, the fight, the blood, the spear. This was their subject. It was their action movie, right? That was one big topic. The second was women. They were obsessed with women. And in fact, they were so obsessed that even when they talked about the battle, they talk about women in the battle. Like when I saw the sword shining, I remembered your smile. Like that's how they were. There was an obsession with, and they have this culture of an atlan. Atlan are, how the Arabs were Bedouins? So they travel somewhere and they set up a camp, and then they're done and they leave. And when they leave, there's only some burnt wood and some marks of animals and some ropes left behind, but that ruins. You can tell somebody was camping here, but they left, right? Those places are called al-atlan in Arabic. So a big part of the culture in Arabic was you would go to the atlan, you would go to this ruin. The guy wanted to marry his cousin. I don't know, in Arab culture, everybody wanted to marry their cousin. I found out this month. But anyway, so he wanted to marry his cousin, and she lived in that village, in that town, and he came back from the battle, and it's atlan now, they're gone. So he would sit there and he would talk to the ruins and say, "Oh my God, you're so lucky. She used to walk on you," and blah blah blah. That's what they would do. So this was it. So their first obsession was war. Their second obsession was women. Their third obsession was generosity. They would show off a lot. We give so much charity. They used to have these giant bowls that they used to fill with food, or they used to fill it with coins and things like that. And they would give in charity, right? And they would just talk about how much they give. The more you give, the more higher status you have in the culture. And these things, and of course, the fourth one was their speech, meaning if you can speak well, then you have higher status. So they would talk about how well our tribe speaks, and compared to us, your tribe doesn't even have a mouth, etc. That's how they would talk about each other, right? So in that culture, one of those things I mentioned was battle, right? And of course, is there fighting and battle in the Quran? Is it there? Is fighting and battle in the seerah of the Prophet? Is it there? Right? So now they have a culture of battle, and the Quran is also talking about battles, but there's a huge difference. When they would talk about battle, they would talk about, if you hurt us, we will hurt you, and we will hurt you so much more than you could ever hurt us. So nobody better mess with me, because I will mess with them and their entire generation. Right? فَنَجْهَلُ فَوْقَ جَهْلِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. We're going to be more jahil than the jahil of all the jahils. You think you're jahil? I'll show you real jahil. That's what they would do. So after Islam came, what happened? فَلَا عُدْوَانَ إِلَّا عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. Like, we're not going to fight with anybody unless they're criminals. We have no fight with you. And if you stop being criminals, then if they stop, you stop. فَإِنْ انْتَهَوْا فَلَا عُدْوَانَ إِلَّا عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. If they stop, then there's no more fighting. But before Islam, if you stop, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. Islam came, and one of the big part of battle was not just battle of swords, it was battle of words. They were big on insults. They used to insult the women of the tribe. They used to insult your mother. They used to insult your sister. They used to insult your manhood. They used to insult whether or not you're really the biological child of your parents. They would question the maternity and the paternity of you. Dirty things. This was common among them. Okay? And when they would insult the women, and they would talk about women in ways that are, like disgusting. They're basically pornographic. That's how they would talk. This was called shi'r sarih. They would speak in explicit language. inappropriate language. This was common among them. Of course, Islam came, and it replaced love of women and love of romance and all that stuff with love of the Prophet ﷺ and love of Allah. So the poetry changed. As soon as Islam came, the poetry changed. And the love of revenge became the love of justice. It changed again. And then their love of insulting others became like, we don't use filthy language. In fact, now we're loving the gentleness in speech. Now we're loving kindness in response to someone who is being harsh. So the value system actually completely changed in what's called Sadrul Islam, the opening era of Islam. But I was telling you about the first 100 years. By the end of the first 100 years, the Muslim cultures, like Iraq, like other places, they went back to filthy poetry. They went back to tribal arrogance. They went back to, like, we started having the same jahiliyyah come back again, like a seasonal virus, right? You have it, you have these allergies, and then they go away, and then they come back the next season. All this stuff that used to be pre-Islam, so much of it came back again. Soon after. And the only difference was, before they used to, curse this tribe versus that tribe, some of that was still there, but now they were cursing, the Ahl Sunnah versus the Shia versus the Khawarij versus this ruler versus that ruler. So the subject changed, the target changed a little bit, but the value system stayed as corrupt. That did not mean Islam ended. Islam survived. And Islam thrived. What I'm trying to get at is a simple point. Islam has always existed in harsh conditions. Islam has never existed in ideal conditions. Just like you, me, and every human being sitting here, and every human being on this earth has never lived in ideal conditions. We've always had some problem in our life. We've always had some challenge in our life. Some people know about your challenges, some people don't know about your challenges, but you've always had challenges. Life itself, society itself is like that. It's never existed in ideal conditions. So this idea that somehow one day we will have the golden age of Islam, where there will be no challenges, there's going to be no antagonism towards Islam, there will be no opposition to our religion, etc., etc. This is not based in reality, it's not based in history, and it's not based in our religion. This has no connection to any of it. This is something we create to feel better about ourselves, right? So what happens is that Muslims say, I'm living in the West, life is challenging, I'm going to make hijrah so that I can live somewhere where there's no more challenges. Now I can be in an Islamic environment, right? Even if you go to an Islamic environment, you're going to find other challenges. I don't want to name other countries, but there are countries where you can go where, just like here, you will hear the adhan, you will have much more people wearing hijab, and the Quran's being recited, the masjids are full, etc., etc. And you'd say, fine, and you don't have to check whether the restaurant's halal or not. Everything's halal. Great. Now you made hijrah to the halal world. You're almost already in Jannah, right? But you'll find in some of those same societies, they're extremely racist, they're extremely classist, they have other values that go against Islam, right? So some of their values, like the halal meat, excellent. Some of the other values, like all human beings deserve respect, not there. So there's something off. So the idea that, and the way I describe it is, you can either choose to live in a society where you see something against your religion outside, you can see it visually, or you can be in a society where there are things against your religion, but they're not apparent. They're internal, right?